Hi, if we haven't met, my name is Sam, and our channel is all about achieving wealth and financial freedom through a three-part strategy: earn more, spend less, and invest the rest. Let's dive right into today's video, which is going to be 9 financial goals to set and achieve in your 30s. I want to kick this list off with something that I think is so important, not only for your growth financially, but also just your growth as a human being in general. And that is to measure yourself by an internal scorecard. So, an internal scorecard is something that you'll hear Warren Buffett talk about, and essentially, it's his way of saying that he measures success based on what he thinks, not about what other people think. We all know that today you can pick up your phone, go onto social media, and instantly you will see a bunch of little head 18-year-olds who look like they are flying in private planes or that they are taking vacations in the Mediterranean on a yacht. And we start comparing ourselves to them and thinking like, well, why do they have all of that and I have what I have? And even though that feeling of comparison is totally natural, in fact, that's how our brains are hardwired. That's how we evolved as humans. We are evolved to actually compare ourselves to others. And now that we have social media, it's literally in our pockets all the time, so we can't really escape it. But when it comes to social media, we have to remember that it's not real. We know that most of what we see is a facade in one way or another. And another way that this idea really applies to finances is this concept of keeping up with the Joneses. So even if you're not comparing yourself to kids on social media, you might be comparing yourself to your peers or your colleagues or your neighbors. You might see them buying expensive things. You might see them getting a big brand new house or a fancy car. But the truth is, we never really know what's going on in someone's financial life. Maybe they are in heaps of debt, or maybe they are really living either at or above their means. You just don't know. So, comparing yourself to others is not only unhelpful, it's unhealthy. And it's going to stop you from being in the right mindset to really achieve success. So, when we think about how we practically apply living by an internal scorecard when it comes to our finances, it's all about not comparing yourself to others, but actually comparing yourself to yourself. And what I mean by that is that you've got to change the benchmark. So, instead of thinking about your performance in relation to other people, you want to think about it in relation to your previous self. So you think, okay, last year I was able to save $5,000. You know what? This year I'm going to save $8,000. And then when you use yourself as that metric, you are going to be able to measure yourself by an internal scorecard and feel better about your achievements. And when you feel better about your achievements, you keep going and you do more and more. And having this mindset is really at the heart of being successful. Number 2, your 30s is the time to set clear goals and make an action plan to achieve them. You know that scene in Alice in Wonderland where she gets lost in the woods and she comes across the tree with the Cheshire Cat and she's like, "Oh, Cheshire Cat, I'm lost. Can you please tell me which way to go?" And he's like, "Well, that depends. Where are you trying to get to?" And she's like, "Oh, it doesn't really matter." And he's like, "Well, then it doesn't really matter which path you take." You see what I'm saying here? If you don't have clear goals, it doesn't really matter which path you take. I think it's really important to use your 30s to be reflective, be honest about the kind of lifestyle that you want, and set those goals for yourself. And don't limit yourself to small goals. Make big goals if that's what you want. But in order to achieve them, we have to have a tangible action plan. And this action plan means setting those goals, setting a budget, sticking to it, tracking your expenses, making investments, measuring the success of those investments, and repeating the process over and over again. Having clear goals reminds us of what we are working so hard to achieve and helps us staying motivated. And having that action plan gives us a roadmap in terms of what are the actions that we need to do on a daily basis in order to achieve those goals. And this brings me to goal number 3, which is commit to living below your means. So most of us are broke in our 20s, and that's totally normal. And then as we get into our 30s, we start making a little bit more money. But rather than saving more, a lot of times we don't end up saving anything because we have this thing called lifestyle drift, where the idea is that the more money you make, the more money you spend. And what I would say is that when it comes to lifestyle, it is super hard to go backwards. So if you have the opportunity to maintain your 20-year-old lifestyle on your 30-year-old salary, it's going to give you the opportunity to really start building that nest egg. After all, you have to have money left over at the end of the month in order to build your financial future. And if you are able to spend less than what you are earning, you are going to be setting yourself up for success in the future. And living below your means is what's going to be the foundation to do exactly that. Number 4 is a habit that I think is so important, and that is to pay yourself first. And literally, what this means is that as soon as you get paid, within 48 hours of receiving your paycheck, you take a predetermined amount of money and you put that into either a savings or an investment account right then and there so that you don't even have the option to spend it. What this does is it totally flips the way that you do your savings and your investment building, because most people, they get their paycheck, they pay all of their bills, and then they buy the things that they want to buy, and whatever's left over at the end of the month, that's what they save. But by paying yourself first, you are prioritizing your financial future. And number 5 on our list is to eliminate the bad debt in your life. Now, make sure that you notice I said bad debt and not all debt, because the truth is, rich people know that there's 2 different types of debt, and that good debt is something that actually enables you to purchase assets and that those assets help you grow your wealth. But bad debt is bad for a reason. And in a really simple term, the way that I like to describe bad debt is that bad debt is money that you can't afford to borrow to buy things that you don't really need. So a really good example of bad debt is credit card debt that you are unable to pay off in full at the end of every month. Your 30s is the perfect time to get rid of bad debt. And if you're interested in learning more about good debt versus bad debt, I'm going to do some videos about this next month. So stay tuned and subscribe and hit those notifications if you want to see when they're released. Financial goal number 6, maximize your primary income. So the reality is, for most of us, our primary income is going to be the main way that we're able to make money. So in other words, our kind of 9-to-5 job or our career. Ideally, now that you're in your 30s, you're going to have more skills than you did in your 20s, and you should be able to leverage that to earn a higher income. So for example, this might involve working hard and getting a promotion at your job. You might invest in yourself, get a certificate or a new qualification that's going to allow you to earn more money. You might be able to leverage your experience to a higher paying job. Because this is going to be the main source to fuel our nest egg, we really just want to squeeze every drop that we can out of that opportunity. And this leads me to goal number 7, which is to add more income streams to your revenue. And even though this might sound a little counterintuitive to what I just told you in number 6, bear with me. So something that really changed the way I thought about finances and money in general was when I realized that even if you make $1 million a year for a salary, you're not actually financially secure. And this is because if something was to happen tomorrow and you lost that job, you would lose your income. You would lose your way to take care of yourself. True financial stability comes from having multiple sources of income. And the way that we build multiple sources of income is by having side hustles, is by having passive investments that earn us money, by having assets that are going to grow our wealth over time. So the more income streams you have, the better. In fact, most millionaires have on average 7 different income streams. So the real way to get financial stability and independence is to have multiple income streams. Goal number 8, your 30s are the perfect time to get over any fear that you might have around investing. The truth is that taking control over your own financial future, taking responsibility for your investments, honestly, it can be really scary. It's a lot of responsibility to take onto your shoulders. And we are really conditioned growing up to be afraid of numbers, afraid of money, afraid of finance. And to be honest, the finance industry does that on purpose. So it's natural to be scared, but the best way to get over fear is to replace it with knowledge. I like to say that you learn about something, And then that first step is to have knowledge. And then that knowledge leads to competency. And once you're competent, that leads to confidence. And so, in order to feel confident about what you're doing, do your research, watch videos, read books, practice your investing, and then you are going to get better and better at what you do, and you're going to be more and more confident in the decisions you make. Just think about it in comparison to anything you might do outside of finance. Let's say you're amazing at playing the piano, or you are great at woodworking, anything like that. You weren't born with that skill. You had to develop it over time. You learn the skills, you practice them, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So your 30s is really that opportunity to get over that fear. And trust me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. All you need to have are very simple math skills. If you can add, if you can divide, subtract, multiply, trust me, you can take control of your financial future. All right, guys, before I conclude with goal number 9, I really quickly want to recap everything that we've talked about. Number 1, we are going to live by an internal scorecard, and we're not going to give a about what other people think about us. Number 2, we are going to have clear financial goals and action plans in order to achieve them. Number 3, we are going to commit to living below our means, and we are not going to let that lifestyle drift prevent us from saving for our future. Number 4, we are going to pay ourselves first. Number 5, we are getting rid of that bad debt from our life. Number 6, we are maximizing our primary income. And number 7, we are adding new income streams. And number 8, we are getting over our fear of investing. And that brings me to goal number 9, which is to hold yourself accountable by having monthly financial check-ins. I really like adding this to our list of goals to achieve in your 30s because it brings everything full circle. By having a monthly financial check-in or a monthly date with yourself to go over your finances, you're really measuring if you are actually working towards achieving your goals. You remember how in the beginning of the video I said you shouldn't compare yourself to others, you should compare yourself to yourself? Well, this is exactly how you do that. By setting that habitual monthly check-in, you are making sure that you are measuring how much money you've spent. If you're staying on track with your budget, you're measuring, is your actual net worth growing over time? How are your investments performing? You're really looking things dead in the eye, and you are making sure that you are measuring that success, that you are being accountable for it. And I'll tell you what, if you know you've got that monthly date with yourself, it's going to remind you every day, like, okay, well, I'm going to have to check in with this in a month. And is what I'm doing really helping me or hurting me? And I think you should also make it enjoyable, make it fun. Give yourself like a coffee and a piece of cake during your monthly check-in. Make it enjoyable and pleasurable for you. This shouldn't be something that you dread. This should be something that you're excited about, because if you're doing it right, you're getting closer to achieving your goals. So make sure that you have that monthly financial check-in with yourself. All right, guys, that wraps up my list. And I'm sure you noticed I didn't give you any specific numbers in terms of your goals. I'm not here to tell you how much you should be saving up by the time you're 35, because the truth is it's called a personal financial journey for a reason. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's goals are different. The way you approach it is going to be different depending on your situation, your values, what's going on with your family. There's so many things that impact it. What my goal is to help you get in the right mindset, to give you the tools and the knowledge that you need in order to be successful. And so I hope that you found this list useful. And if you did, it would be awesome if you could let me know by hitting that like button, or even better, helping us grow by subscribing to our channel. If you like this video, I think you might like these videos. And remember to connect with us in the comments. We love to hear from you. You can follow us on Twitter. And until then, remember, earn more, spend less, and invest the rest. And I'll see you next time.